It's Caroline Wright, your friendly neighborhood soup lady here, and I have a really awesome soup to cook with you for today. It's called split pea with roasted kale. I can't wait to show it to you. It's just a bunch of green split peas. You could use yellow too, a couple of stalks of celery, 2 carrots, a few garlic cloves that we're going to smash and then fry in some hot oil to get it nice and sort of brown flavor, a little bit caramelized and broken up. Just 1 onion. And then a bunch of kale. I prefer curly for this one. And then all you do is strip it from the leaves. I tear it apart, scrunch it with some oil, and then like roast it in the oven very quickly. And some bay leaves. I love fresh bay leaves. I grow them out back in my garden. And some spices, some nutritional yeast, which is the secret of this soup, some smoked paprika, and some mustard seeds. You could use brown or yellow. So let's get started. And here is that kale that I was telling you about. All I did, like I said, I pulled off the stems and I scrunched it with some oil in my hands, and I used a little bit of black pepper and some salt. And this is what happened. You put it under the broiler for a few minutes. This is what you get. It makes this lovely smoky flavor that I feel like is what sort of a ham bone adds to traditional split pea soup recipes. So let's get making that soup. I love this split pea soup. I wanted to make it for my soup club, my friends, because my dad used to make it for us and my family when I was growing up, and it reminds me of him. So I just added a fair bit of oil. It's a split pea soup. It likes a lot of oil, and you get that kind of fat flavor that a ham hock would have had. And so here are those smashed garlic cloves I was telling you about. All I did was have a garlic clove removed from its paper and just smashed it on my cutting board with the side of a knife or a small skillet if you're a little worried about the blade, which is fair enough. So I'm going to tip this. It's a little tricky with an induction, but I'm going to do the best I can to tip this pan to one side so that the oil will pool on the one side. You can see it's nice and hot because it's a little bit smoky. I can smell it. It's very fragrant. And here we go. I'm going to just fry them in this little bit of oil here. Yes, it's getting mad at me. So I'll do the best I can. Maybe just stir it. But it's even better if you can pull it to the side if you have a gas flame where the pan is still hot. With induction, it has to have contact with the surface at all times, which is not ideal for this application. But otherwise, lovely. So the benefit of having these large pieces of garlic means that it just gets to cook with the rest of our mirepoix, but we're just browning it a little bit first. And then it will sweat nicely with our carrot, onion, and celery. Classic flavor base for a soup and classic for a split pea soup. Can't get better than that. All right, here we go. And I love to add salt and pepper in the different stages. Here we go. Ooh. It's really important because my soups don't have broth or stock, so you have to build the flavor as you go. And I actually don't think that salt and pepper live together the way that, a lot of cookbooks say they do. I think pepper is a kind of an aggressive flavor. But this soup, with all of its sort of smoky flavors, I feel like it's a really good fit. And actually, the mustard seeds I told you about, that reminds me of like an Indian dal kind of recipe. That's where I lifted it from, just to add some like interesting texture in the soup. And I feel like black pepper and mustard seeds, those speak Indian food to me. So just keep the parallel going. I love having this rich flavor base at the beginning. So what you're going to do is you're just going to saute this, sweat it until the onion is nice and tender, but not necessarily browned. So we're just going to cook this for a few minutes, and you just sort of stir it occasionally. And then we'll be adding our spices, our flavors are dried spices, and our green split peas. and our roasted kale that and water. It comes together as easy as that. And this is one, all of my soups freeze really well, but this is one that is lovely because there's like absolutely no change. And there's nothing more comforting to me than a bowl of split pea soup. You could also use yellow split peas instead of the green. It's fun to have that change once in a while. All right, so this looks great. I can see that my onion is nice and soft. I can tell that everything is nice and glossy. Beautiful. So we have the rest of our ingredients that we can add now. We've got 2 bay leaves. Like I said, I prefer fresh. They're very different than dried. And I've got these nice dried spices. Again, I have smoked paprika, some nutritional yeast, which is, you can't skip it. It's the secret of this soup, and some mustard seeds, which I really love. You could use brown ones. These happen to be yellow. Just go ahead and toss all that in. Of course, then I'll add the roasted kale. And some water, because when you add split peas or lentils or anything all at once, they become kind of a hard mass. So this is how I prevent that. I stir in, like kind of alternate lentils and water, and then you won't get that mass, which really ends up being like a charred crust at the bottom of your pan, which nobody wants. So there we go. Got a bunch of water. The broth is already nice and red because of the smoked paprika. It's going to be delicious. I wish I could share it with you. This is the best I can do. Anyway, here we go. Rest of your split peas. And a good solid pinch of salt and pepper, because we did just add a bunch of water, so all that flavor we worked on in the beginning will get diluted. Salt, pepper, there we go. Get one last stir and bring it to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, you just simmer it until the split peas are done, which they're a little pesky. They can take a minute. So it usually is around like 45 minutes to an hour, but it's worth it. I promise. So I'll just bring this to a boil and then we'll simmer it for a while. You can simmer it uncovered. So here we are with our split pea soup that's been simmering now for a little while. So delicious. The last step of all of my soups is to season it with salt and pepper and some acid. In this case, I'm just using regular old cider vinegar, which I love and use in most of my soups. Or, you could hit it with some lemon juice if you wanted to be all fresh about it. So let's give it a try. This is going to be very, very warm. Let's see what it needs. Still think I could use a little bit of salt, more salt and pepper. That really is up to you because it's based on how much you added before. And then the acid, cider vinegar. And that's a tablespoon to start, I think. So that's just my measurement to show you that it's like, don't be shy, but really it's all to taste. So I hope you enjoy. Let's try it out. And then I will plate up a nice bowl full. So good. And voila, look at our beautiful soup. Now I'm going to give it, I've tried it. It's lovely. But I can eat it from this bowl too, be civilized. It's very hot. It's a metal bowl. So yay, split pea soup. It's on page 25 of my Soup Club cookbook. And I hope you'll follow me along here next week. I hope you'll hit the like button below, and I hope you'll buy my cookbook so that you can cook along with me while I make soups here. Thank you so much for coming. I can't wait to see you next week.